Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of the Cinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we are doing a real doubleheader for summer 2026. We're talking about fashion versus fatalities, a combo you probably didn't expect to hear on a single podcast, because we're going to be doing a two-part review. First up, we're going to be reviewing The Devil Wears Prada 2, the long-awaited sequel that we didn't realize people were waiting for, but apparently they were. And then Mortal Kombat 2, the sequel that we're not sure anyone wanted, but we said that last one was good enough, we'll take it anyway. Is it actually worth to take it anyway? Joining me today, two of the most fashionable people I know. One of them I have the pleasure of co-hosting this podcast, but two incredibly fashionable people who are very, what's the word? You're very up on the trends of what looks cool, what's flashy, what's sexy. Laron Chapman, co-host, award-winning Oklahoma filmmaker. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, glad to be here for this kind of, like you said, his or hers episode. Something for both equations of the date, you know. So yeah, there's something for everybody.
We got to bring it in, you know. It's a really interesting summer. If you looked at the schedule, I was like, well, do we do Devil Wears Prada 2 or Mortal Kombat 2? And I'm like, these are certain...
Yes.
The
answer is yes.
Correct. If you're not into one of these movies, you're probably at least somewhat interested in the other, is my guess. Very excited to be rejoined by a very special guest. She's at deadCenter, features programmer Chaves Rojas. Cam, welcome back.
Hello. Hi, thank you for saying I'm so stylish.
Hey, I've seen you at those deadCenter parties, and you dress to impress and always blow me away pretty consistently. And Cam will be joining us for our Devil Wears Prada 2. She decided she wants to stay in the Earth realm and not go to the Nether realm. So Laron and I will be tackling that one separately on our own. Who's going to keep their spine or their heart intact? I guess you'll have to tune in to find out. Now, of course, before we get into either of you, I just wanted to remind you that if you enjoy the show, one really great way you can support us is by subscribing via your preferred podcast player, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leaving us a rating and a review. And again, we are on YouTube now. I'm seeing very slowly we're getting YouTube subscribers trickling in little by little. Join the movement, I would say, by subscribing to the Cinematropolis on YouTube. And we have, of course, video versions of the podcast, but also a lot of YouTube shorts for like sort of our like kind of micro reviews from time to time as well. So check those out. All right, team. I thought, this is fun. This is our first, we had a summer kind of preview last week. This week is our first review for the summer. And I thought it might be fun to look back at summers past. And the first weekend in May is, for the last, I'd say about 30, 35 years, has been the beginning of summer. And I thought, what better way to kick off this podcast than ask, what is your favorite summer movie season kickoff? So the rules are a little fast and loose. It's usually the first weekend in May. However, one example that broke this rule, it'd be Avengers Endgame opened April 26th. So we were talking specifically about like big studio films that sort of kick off the popcorn season. Another example for listeners, just to provide more specification here. In 2024, we got The Fall Guy that opened on May 3rd, or in 2022, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness opened on May 6th. Sorry, Laron, I know you were going to say that one. I just didn't. I had to kind of get that one off the board, so you didn't claim it first, because I know you're such a huge Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness fan.
Yeah. You know me. My goodness.
You're thinking about the Benedict Cumberbatch. The sequel that no one... The movie that made $1 billion that literally no one talks about anymore, ever.
Yeah.
Do you remember how Charlize Theron showed up in the post-credits stinger to that and was never heard from again?
Remember what happened with that? Yeah. She had better things to do. Thank God.
All right. Well, Laron Chapman, what is your favorite summer movie kickoff?
I had to go back like 11 years on this one because I was looking at the releases in May from all these different periods and finally stumbled upon, that's my one. That's the one. So 2015 May release, little movie called Mad Max Fury Road. You may remember this one. Not Furiosa, which is highly underrated and very sad those box office numbers weren't higher. But from what I saw, Mad Max Fury Road actually did pretty relatively well at the box office, and especially at its its full run for sure. And easily one of my favorite movies of the last 10, 15 years. So I think we did our favorite films of the decade episode or series a long time ago. And this made a lot of people's list, you know. So the original, I say the original, not the original, but the original of this new iteration of Mad Max, definitely one of the best action films I've ever seen, period. But also definitely a huge kickoff for 2015. So,
man, you nail it. Yes, that is easy. I am right there with you. That is easily my like one of my favorite action movies of all time. Like up there with Terminator 2, which is like you know, top shelf, infinitely rewatchable, easily the best movie of the 2010s in my opinion. So wow, what a pick. There's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to top that. At least not in the 2010s. Before that though, Cam, I'm curious, what was your selection here?
Okay, so I did kind of look back, and I want to say the Princess Diaries.
Oh,
I,
wow.
I think that was one of those back in
the
2000.
OG or the sequel?
The sequel, because
Okay, Princess Diaries 2.
yeah, because
Okay.
I do remember. I feel like that was one of the first movies I saw when I moved here from Colombia. So it was one of my first kind of American theater experiences, I want to say. I feel like that was back in 2006, but I could be wrong.
And it's Anne Hathaway. So full circle moment here.
Full circle.
You were meant to be here.
Yes.
Summers are always better whenever Anne Hathaway kicks them off. That's what I'm hearing.
That's what we're learning.
Yes.
Apparently, this is what's been missing. So.
Anne Hathaway, can you please open every summer for us? It's been a great summer so far. Let's keep the party going.
Note to Anne Hathaway: make movies releases during May, please. The year will never be the same without it.
Isn't it okay? This is one of those fun things where I haven't watched The Princess Diaries 2 in so long, but then I read a story a couple of years ago. Was it Chris Pine who was the love interest in that movie?
Yes.
That's wild.
It's wild.
It's also wild to think that The Princess Diaries was the introduction, essentially, to Anne Hathaway, and just looking at her very varied and interesting and robust career since then is pretty remarkable.
Absolutely,
I'd say she's one of our greatest working talents, like young new talents now. So, and obviously won an Oscar in between that whole period. Not to skim over that. You know, and it's just nice to see her back, you know, in a big way this year, as we talked kind of a little bit off air, with 5 releases this year, duking it out, you know, with Zendaya this year for who can outwork the other, you know, and then Nicole Kidman in the background, like, help, I've been here.
Nicole Kidman's like, guys, the AMC money's running out. I have to go back to work this year.
Exactly. Let me give me 5. If I'm not on 5 episodic shows and 13 movie releases, my goodness, I don't know how she does that, but you know,
it's impressive. The whenever people have like years like this, you're like, man, you guys were really going to town. That's a lot of scripts to memorize, a lot of performances to prep for. So I, for one, am very excited to see Anne Hathaway back. Yeah, we already had her. Was it Mother Mary very recently, right? And then now we've got this one. We have the Odyssey later this summer. Gosh. It's quite the year for Anne Hathaway. Eager to kind of discuss, you know, a little bit of the Hathaway-essence feels like it diminishes her work in the indie film scene, like or like lower budget, mid budget, like more
the Renaissance.
Yes.
The Renaissance.
Hathaway-essence.
Hathaway-essence.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
we'll work on it. We'll work on it.
Yeah,
We're getting there.
It, yes.
Yeah, we've got all summer to figure it out.
Right.
So I went back for my pick on my favorite summer opening. I was like, I'm going to challenge myself to go further back in time because I felt like basically since 2008, whenever Iron Man opened, we've basically been inundated with Marvel movies the first week of every summer for most of the summers. So I thought, well, what did things look like before then? Mad Max Fury Road's a great pick, though. I'm going to go with 1999, one of what a lot of people on the internet call the greatest year in movie history. I'm not sure I'm quite on that claim, but it's definitely in the running. And you guys,
it's a good year. That's a good year.
It was a great year. There was a lot of movies that came out that summer too. I mean, you had The Matrix came out that summer.
Okay, so The Matrix.
That was later. And no, not Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, because you knew I was definitely going to choose that. I wasn't going to choose that. No. Do you remember what else came out in May? The first weekend in May, 1999. I'm just curious.
Was it Scream?
99.
Not
No,
Scream.
the 96 would be Scream. 90,
Oh, duh.
no, you're good. 99. Was it? Give me the genre. This is a fun game that we're just inserting
Okay, it's a
into
fun
this
game.
moment.
Okay,
But
genre. Let's
would
say
that get,
Indiana Jones adjacent. How about that?
oh,
Mission Impossible?
No.
not Tomb Raider. No, he wouldn't say
No.
that.
Or like,
You're getting closer with Tomb Raider though.
Tomb Raider.
It's in that same ilk.
Oh man,
There's they
the
recently announced
Mummy.
The Mummy. That's
the
right.
Mummy.
The Mummy.
Yes.
The Brendan Fraser Mummy, the
Brendan
first
Fraser
one,
Mummy.
right?
Yes, the not Lee Cronin's Mummy from the recent
Oh
one.
my
Not the
gosh.
Tom Cruise Mummy. We're talking the Brendan Fraser Mummy, the first one, which was
Yes.
a true popcorn classic that has weirdly in the last 2 or 3 years has gotten quite a there's the internet has brought it back to the forefront in terms of isn't that movie great? I agree.
Yeah.
It's always been great. The
It's
Mummy.
always amazing. Such a great
I
movie.
low-key like both the first two, and
I do too.
the less said about the third one, the better. But
oh my gosh.
or really anything after that one. But but those first two I'll like. They both have just a cheesy, the CGI is bad now, but but there's still this kind of earnest '90s charm that they still have that is just so nostalgic and infectious to watch, and the chemistry between Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz is so good, So
it's incredible, and I think like the thing was we hadn't had Indiana Jones for I think at that point it had been 8 years since the Last Crusade, so it's one of those things where it's not Indiana Jones, it's its own thing, but it kind of recaptured that sort of swaggering protagonist on an adventure to find this relic and stop this supernatural thing. It had a lot of the same ingredients. That's your point, Laron. It lands differently in a little more of a little more of a 90s earnestness kind of way. But the cheesiness for me is endearing. I think it makes it. And I think Brendan Fraser has deserved a better career. That was such an incredible performance as kind of action comedy lead.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. He was doing some bangers back then, and I think it wasn't until I think the year that he won for The Whale that we were like, remember Brendan Fraser? Don't we all collectively just love Brendan Fraser? I don't know, when did when do we all not know this for ourselves, acknowledge it? The thing is Keanu Reeves, similar to that. It's one of the nicest human beings on the planet, you know what I mean? It's just one of those celebrities that has just no pretense, no ego, has always been himself, and somehow
I just think as millennials we are just so nostalgic right now, so I feel like we start pulling out different actors and celebrities that were just I can't believe I forgot about this person that shaped my childhood, or
for sure.
of that.
And he kind of had a slow what's the word he hasn't had a comeback, but he's had a moment. It's been small moments. Obviously winning the Whale was a huge moment, but it wasn't the moment. It was oh wow, he just kind of came out of nowhere with that. That was an incredible performance. I'm glad he's back. And then we've seen him. He showed up in the Killers of the Flower Moon in a small role. He just kind of showing up here and there. And I'm really glad just to see him back on the big screen on a more regular cadence. So maybe it is nostalgia, but also it's one of those. I was like, let's celebrate him a little more,
And apparently,
absolutely,
we're getting a new Mummy, apparently, right?
Yes.
With him and Rachel, which is so confusing. It's we just had a Mummy, but it's not that Mummy, and now we're going back to the original Mummy with Rachel Weisz, even though she wasn't in the third one. Maria Bello replaced her in that one, which was awkward and weird.
But it is canon, apparently. They're keeping it canon, too.
It's canon, so I was like, wait. Because they didn't change her name or anything. It just really bothered me in the third one. Because there's a brief I rewatched it recently. There's a brief acknowledgement of it. I look different, don't I? And it's just oh my God, we're doing that.
She got face surgery. Right. She's hiding from the government. We don't really know.
It's good that you survived that horrible accident in Bosnia, and we had to get that surgery. But I'm glad you're okay.
Right. How they'll acknowledge it in this new one, I can't wait to see how they evade that. But either way, I'm happy she's back.
Yeah. Likewise. Listeners, what is your favorite summer movie opening? Movies opening that first weekend in May. You can let us know, of course, by hitting us up on social media, the Cinematrop on Instagram, thecinematropolis.com. Or hey, if you're watching on YouTube, you can comment. You can list off the comments below. We have a few people kind of conversing in there from time to time. So join that conversation. Would love to hear from you. And Spotify, also an option for commenting. But let us know. Give us that feedback. What is your favorite summer movie? All right, ladies and gentlemen. With that said, let's move on to part one of our For Her and His summer kickoff movie. We're going to do our review of The Devil Wears Prada 2.
Runway. It's not just a magazine. It's a global icon. A winding road that brings us back together again.
Hello?
Well, look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
Sorry. Who is this? Do you know her? Do I know her?
I'm Andy Sachs. Andrea.
She was one of the Emilys.
One of the what?
So according to IMDb, The Devil Wears Prada 2 is described as Andy Sachs reunites with Miranda Priestley as they navigate their careers amid the decline of traditional magazine publishing. So, a few notable facts about this film. It does, in fact, reunite the original cast members, Meryl Streep as Miranda Priestley, Anne Hathaway as Andy Sachs, Emily Blunt as Emily, also Charlton, and Stanley Tucci as Nigel. A few notable newcomers that joined this cast are Justin Theroux as Benji Barnes, Kenneth Branagh, that's a weird one, kind of came out of nowhere, as Stuart Simmons, Lucy Liu as Sasha Barnes, and my favorite, BJ Novak as Jay Ravitz. Anytime BJ Novak, I don't feel like he shows up enough, but anytime he does, I'm like, all right, whatever this is, it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun, yeah.
Also, the film not only brought back the on-screen talent, but we had the behind-the-scenes talent back as well. Lean Brosh McKenna, the writer, is back, as is the director David Frankel, returning from The Devil Wears Prada 1. By the way, Devil Wears Prada 1, 2006 release. That makes it 20 years old. So
that
20 years later.
Insane to process.
That's so crazy.
When Meryl said she was like, I was 56 when I made this movie. I was like, that just blows my mind. Meryl has been, Anne Hathaway and her are like crystallized in time, and they are the same people they were then. 20 years have somehow passed. They have not aged, and they are just
not a day.
They are back in the same spot. It is insane to me that was 20 years ago. That makes me feel very old because I feel like this movie literally, the script and the lines of this movie play in my head all the time. And they're definitely like a quick, it's a quick reference point to do with your friends or what have you all the time. So it is just insane to me that movie has existed for 2 decades. That's most of my life, to be fair.
And I think, Laron, you brought up, you and I were talking about this too, how it's one of those where you wouldn't think of it as like an obviously massive film, like in the same way as like an Iron Man or an Inception or something. But like this movie has been memed like crazy. People quote the first film all the time. I mean, especially millennials. I mean, this is like a sweet spot for us that you're like, yeah, that is kind of a classic, I guess. I wouldn't have thought of it that way, but it's like, obviously everyone's seen it. I don't think I know very many people or anyone who doesn't like it. And I actually, while it's definitely it's obviously more targeted towards women. Like I know a ton of guys who really like the movie, myself included, by the way. So like, it's surprising.
I want to say Meryl was like, this is not the movie we thought was going to cover the 4 quadrants. She was like, we knew this was what they called then a chick flick. This was not going to transcend that. It wasn't going to, she's like, we were going to appeal to women and the gays. And she's like, we knew that. We knew that. We knew that. She's like, we knew that. It's fashion. It's all this stuff. Like we knew that's what it was going to appeal to. What we did not expect was that grown men, businessmen, CEOs, understand the humor, have come up to Meryl and said, I felt seen by you in this movie. She's like, that's really disturbing to hear because this is not a character that I would tell people to aspire to be necessarily, but the fact that it appealed, that her steeliness and her kind of chilliness in that role has appealed to straight men in positions of power. So there's that. Does
the straight men in positions of power take the wrong lesson from the media?
She's a Patrick Bateman.
You don't say. It's like, wait, you weren't the hero? Meryl wasn't the hero of The Devil Wears Prada? What do you of the first one?
No. Devil Wears Prada 2, this film, budget $100 million. So not cheap, but definitely significantly cheaper than like a superhero movie, for example. Sure. And on its opening weekend, it grossed $76.7 million domestically and $156.6 million internationally. So in that opening weekend, if you add that all together, that is $233.6 million worldwide. And I can tell you the numbers as of this recording just came in for domestically, and it made it opened number one on its second weekend as well, beating out our other film today, Mortal Kombat. 41 million on its second weekend, which is only a 47% drop. So again, if you're at all invested in the business, what that means is not only did it have a big opening weekend, but like people came, either the word of mouth kept people either coming back or new people showing up. Like a less than 50% drop is a huge success in terms of like second weekend. So yeah, we have a hit, ladies and gentlemen. Devil Wears Prada 2. Real quick, before we jump into Devil Wears Prada 2, and Cam, I'll throw it to you first. Like, kind of tell me a little bit more about like what did you think of the first film? What's your experience with it? And like looking back on it, what does that film kind of mean to you? 20 years later.
Oh, absolutely. It means a lot to me because I used to read a lot of Teen Vogue growing up. I was really big into fashion and magazines, and I thought I wanted to be a designer when I was a kid. So when I saw The Devil Wears Prada, it definitely felt like this whole aspirational line of a million girls would kill for this job. You definitely position yourself as Anne Hathaway, it kind of going to like Disney World or to a Wonderland where fashion, art, and just editorial artistry exists, and they all coincide. So I really love this movie. I used to watch it all the time. I remember even watching it with kids I was growing up with, guys and girls included. And we would kind of make fun of it at first, but then we would lock in every single time. It would start with the "Suddenly I See" sequence in the beginning.
The song, yeah.
Yeah, because it just like it hypnotizes you. One thing I enjoy about both movies, the montages are super fun, super fast, very easy to, just get entranced and have a really great time. So I really loved this movie growing up, and I was very excited when they were teasing the sequel for like a decade or something like that. And I have a soft spot for Anne Hathaway. I loved her in Ella Enchanted before she did The Devil Wears Prada, and I continue to follow her career like everywhere she goes. So it's super great to have a sequel.
Yeah.
All right, long awaited. And again, I think it's kind of cool. You mentioned earlier the Anne Hathaway connection. That was one of the first films you saw here in this, in the States, Princess Diaries 2. That's really cool. I mean, like she's like sort of like a personally, you've been really invested in her career, having that first interaction. Here we are 20 years later. That's cool.
Absolutely.
Laron, Chapman, what about you? What is your relationship with the first film?
Yeah, it's one of those movies where I feel like a whole generation of people finally understood who Meryl Streep was, because she had a very storied and illustrious career even before this, and so much so that they weren't even positioning her to be in this particular role. They had other people in mind, and they were like, Meryl's not funny. Like, we can't, she's too whatever, she wound up being just pitch perfect for this, in a way. And when people say she's not funny, I'm like, the death becomes their exist, guys. And I need people to respect that camp classic. But also for me, this is a comfort movie for me. This is something I probably watch, if not every year, every other year. Like it's something that if it's on at any point, I'll watch it because it's just it's very soothing, very cozy movie. It's easily quotable, endlessly quotable. There's so many little one-liners here that have just kind of become part of the cultural zeitgeist in general. Like it's just, like if there's at least 10 iconic lines from this that if you say it, people get the reference. And as far as fashion goes, like I was definitely a kid who collected magazines as well, and that was something like when you saw the hot star on the cover of it, like I couldn't wait to, I still have a lot of these in my closet, which is like from years past. And it's kind of nostalgic to go back and look at this and remember, like, I remember buying magazines. Wasn't that a good time? I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to kind of see the evolution of how this film kind of encapsulates that adolescent period of our lives then, and how this new one is kind of capturing a much different social and economic landscape, in different ways. So, but yes, this is a movie that is easily rewatchable, and I can't even tell you how many times I've seen it. It's probably, I mean, it's over 60 times, and there's obviously that iconic monologue about the cerulean sweater And I think that I can't tell you how many of my friends have used that monologue as an audition for films, how many drag queens I have seen recreate this on stage in night bars. Like it exists in a way that, it's just kind of remarkable when you think that this was, again, 20 years ago. Is just,
it's insane.
It's kind of wild. Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of the original for sure.
Love to hear it. So I think Laron really likes the original.
just a wild guess.
Yeah. So I also really like the original, but I also only saw it one time up until like 2 weeks ago. So first I'll say I really liked the original when I saw it. It was kind of like it did fall in that sort of chick flick bucket of yes, I am like film, especially in college, mega film bro, all like those stereotypes, all accurate. So I like the types of things I would typically watch. This was sort of outside the box, but I have always loved Anne Hathaway. I kind of had a crush on her after Princess Diaries, so like I was on the train. I'm like, I'll pretty much watch her in anything. And she was great in that movie. I had seen Meryl Streep before, but that was the first time I was like, oh, this is Meryl Streep. This is who this is. That really, that felt like a proper introduction to me, because after that, anytime she would show up, I was like, ooh, it's going to be good. Even though she, like you said, Laron, had already had an incredible career as one. And she was already known as one of the best actresses in the game. So that was kind of like a really interesting introduction to me. And then I sort of put it in the, that's a chick flick I like bucket. And there's where it lived like for like 20 years. And I was always like favorable to it. I was like, yeah, no, it's a good movie. I tell guys to watch it. Rewatching it just a couple weeks ago to prep for the new one, it was really surprising to me. I never really thought about it meaningfully as a workplace dramedy. It really isn't even a rom-com. There is a love interest subplot in it, but like that's definitely not what the movie's about. In fact, in retrospect, you feel like that's just there so that they could market it as a rom-com. What was way more interesting was the workplace dynamics, the relationship with Miranda Priestley, sort of like the toxic management and that
the immersion into this world that if you're not inside of it, you're like, oh, this is far more chaotic and toxic than I would have ever imagined, it would be. Because we just think of it as, oh, it's people wear nice clothes and they have a good time, but it's hard work. And then the people that are sewing those things up or managing these things or coordinating these events, it is just, it's insane. Yeah.
It's insane. And also the kinds of things that were acceptable in the workplace 20 years ago, you're like, holy cow, like the bag throwing thing, which we'll get to in the second when we talk about the second one. But I actually, one of my favorite things was how in the second one was like, oh yeah, well, that's not okay. And you can't do that. You can't do that. And it's just, because that was the same reaction I was having watched the first one. I was like, oh yeah, that would not happen today.
We just accepted it then. Back then we weren't we weren't challenging it. We just kind of laughed at the absurdity of it and not even really. But I will say what I do reference this movie a lot when people ask me, what is the film industry like? Obviously these are different artistic universes, but very similar in toxicity and work ethic and laborious hours, thankless jobs, all these kinds of things. When people ask like, starting out in film, I felt like Anne Hathaway in The Devil Wears Prada, and everyone's like, got it.
The line, the line, a million girls would kill to have this job really hit differently when I watched it, because I was like, oh yeah, I didn't do fashion publishing industry, but I did like entertainment publishing. And that's the thing, not to sound like a cynic, but a lot of people who work in this industry do it for like, especially early on, you do like free to like suboptimal pay. The hours are long and grueling. And you get to do a lot of really cool, sexy stuff, but at like personal cost to your own health and finances, like
and relationships.
Relationships. There's all sorts of like sacrifices that you're just expected to make in order to like even make it, like make ends meet in the line of work, that line of work. And so, and I'm a lot more jaded towards that point of view at this point in my life. So I was looking, I was like, that is so how I felt like as a 20-something who was trying to break in. It's like, yeah, man, you want this job, you just gotta like pay your dues and catch people's purses and
get hazed a little bit.
And it's true. I mean, I remember being on my first film and thinking like, is this what it's like? Is no one going to call these a-holes out? And that are they just allowed to treat you this way? And there's not even like a wasted second that someone can give you to even like prepare you for what you're getting ready to experience. It's like you either are going to move along with the train or you're going to get chewed up and spit out.
Yep.
It's up to you whether you want to do it or not. We don't care one way or the other. And if you stick around long enough, we'll have a conversation about it one day. It's kind of crazy. It's like,
well, it's because they're okay, yeah, you don't make it, that's okay. There's like 20 other people right in line who will do it for even less pay than you.
It's like, a revolving door. And
absolutely.
they feed off exploitation. They feed off of the that what do you call it? The starry-eyed
scarcity mindset too.
Oh my God, you get to be in a movie. Oh my God, the attractiveness, the allure of that, and then you get in it, and you're like, oh, this is what it is. And at some point, when you get thick enough skin, like I did, and you've been in it, you've been doing it for 13 years now, you're able to roll with the punches with a lot of that. But I also I will say, as trying to break the generational curse of that toxicity, I will say, whenever I run a project, I try to show the utmost like sensitivity to those coming in, because I understand how hard it was. And I definitely want to extend that grace to them and say, hey, it doesn't have to be like this. We don't have to be assholes. This is a hard job and it's going to be stressful for everyone involved, but we can have a mutual respect for one another in the process,
Absolutely.
And so that to me, I've noticed that with our generation too, has been doing that as the new, with our position in it. It was like we're kind of shedding ourselves of the former practices that were accepted, but we should never have been accepted, and no one ever challenged them because they didn't know they could. They didn't know they could.
Yeah. And I wanted to throw in, like, just as a female, like a woman perspective, also the fact that she was called fat. Her weight was brought up consistently. So it wasn't just that she was good at her job. It was her body was constantly being criticized, which looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, like this was horrible.
And the whole women shit to show up in heels still. Like I was like, oh my God, that's just awful. Like, all right, you gotta be epic, awesome at this job that's impossible to do, and also you need to look very like
stylish while you suffer. You need to be stylish while you suffer. And but what's interesting about that is that's a huge change, a huge kind of tectonic cultural shift. If you think about it, because you're right, during the 90s, early aughts, like the objectification of women, in magazines, in Hollywood and everything, like it was be skinny, don't be fat, like starve yourself, all these different things that were these very, very, very toxic things for body image. And it's so interesting to think about now how we're in that body positivity era where we're accepting of all different shapes and forms, and we frown upon people who don't do those things now, you know what I mean? And that's how that's kind of been implemented. We have plus size models now. We have things like that ordinarily in the top model era of things, there's that documentary that's on Netflix right now that's showing you just how toxic that environment was, and it was accepted, and how that would never fly today. And so it is kind of interesting to look at this movie in retrospect and seeing how the new film tackles the new landscape in that way.
Yeah.
Last thing I'd say too, the Miranda, related to all of that though, the Miranda Priestley character, it's weird because I know that she is the kind of the villain of the movie, and she is, but the first movie I still thought was like, hi, you're really nice to her. Like, because the thing is, it's interesting you bring up the gender thing, Cam, because she is also perpetuating the system as a woman, and that's what makes her like almost even like worse. Even worse. It's like, oh, how hard this is, and you're actively putting that pressure on your people to do that, which makes her extra like even like more devious. But they always like dance around this, like there's a little sympathy for her, maybe a little more than I think she deserves. And I think we'll get into it in the second film, but there's a little more exploration we get to later. How do we think about the sequel, The Devil Wears Prada 2? And Cam, I'll throw it to you first. What was your initial thoughts on The Devil Wears Prada 2?
Well, like I said, I was excited about the sequel, and going in, I don't know. I think going like on film Twitter and stuff, you can already tell the difference between the cinematography from the first movie versus the second movie. And I definitely was like, this feels like an Amazon movie in a way. I don't know why this just felt a little different than the first time around. You know, like it was wonderful to see everybody, like iconic actors coming all together again. That was really, really fun. But it just started to feel like I called it like the Disneyfication of the Devil Wears Prada because they wanted to hit every single meme nostalgia piece, and we'll get into that, you know, just so people could be like, oh, I remember that, I remember that,
The member
instead of
berries.
yes, exactly. You know, it's that meme of Leo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just like pointing at the
Yeah.
screen, like, I remember that, you know, which is fine. And that's always, that can always be done really well and, you know, service to the audience. But it just started to feel like they weren't really trying to make something new. They were just trying to retread on something a little familiar. They did attempt a couple of interesting like plot lines based around the media, magazine publishing, journalism, all of that. But it felt like they were mostly focused on trying to recreate some iconic moments and trying to create new iconic moments that to me started to feel a little flat as the film progressed. And then there were some plot elements, some B plots that just didn't feel fully uh, figured out, especially the romantic interest. It just felt like, again, they felt like they needed to put that in there so people could feel like they're seeing a rom com when, you know, they could have just felt confident about the story that they wanted to tell. So it just felt a little bit overproduced, but I still had a great time. And, you know, I could feel the audience having a great time. And yeah, so I was, you know, I was just vibing with it, just rolling along. Yeah.
Kind of middle of the road. Like you kind of enjoyed the experience of watching it, but overall, just as a piece of filmmaking, you're like, feels
Yeah.
feels a little safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Laron, what did you think of The Devil Wears Prada 2?
Yeah, I agree with you about the aesthetics. There's definitely kind of a stark difference in the way that both these films were shot. I think, in particular, one thing that I always loved about the first one is the editing in the first one is very sharp. It's very crisp and cut between looks, and we cut between moments very fast. There's a zippiness to it, kind of a whiz bang boom to the first one. And this one definitely it works like that in fits and starts, but not like in its entirety, you know. And I think it's because, to Cam, to your point, there are some subplots in this that you absolutely we could have, you know, copied,
Cut out altogether,
cut
man.
out
Yeah,
altogether. It would have
Yeah.
wouldn't
absolutely.
impact the movie one way or the other.
Mhm.
In particular, the love interest. I would say that I think it's interesting that that is kind of that is the gripe with this one, because with the first one, oh God, with his Adrian Grenier, who plays the love interest for Anne Hathaway in the first one, he's
Or
often,
Simon Baker, the other one, the other love
or
interest.
Simon Baker.
Which, by the way, that guy is mega. He was creepy then, but
Oh,
watching it again today, I was like, "Oh, this
yeah,
guy is mega creepy."
Ew.
definitely a sleaze bag, yeah. But the Adrian Grenier character, he's even said on record, you know, like, in many ways, obviously, it was great to be a part of the movie. Would have loved to have been part of the sequel if they had allowed me. They didn't ask. But also, it kind of ruined me because everyone hates that character because he was unsupportive of Anne Hathaway, and so
Mhm.
in so many ways, he was like that again. If we're going back to the memification of the first movie, there's photos of him where it was like, if you're ever in a relationship, don't be this guy. You know, if you ever see, you know, like he became like, you know, in a way that the internet is able to toxify a
Yes.
fictional character and forget that there was an actor that played this character, and we don't hate him. You just hate the character in that movie, and they're not the same. You know, that sort of thing. Like, so it's
Mhm.
interesting in the second one, that the kind of the storyline in that is essentially that part of the story isn't super essential to the first one. And here they double down on that with even less interesting love
Yeah.
interest for her. That at one point I forgot he was even in the movie. I think we come back
Yeah.
to it later in the movie. She opens the door like, oh yeah, I have to make up with this guy because we had a
Oh,
fight 40 minutes ago, and I forgot that he was even in the story because it wasn't necessary. We could have either cut that 15 minutes and made the movie a little tighter, or you could have fleshed out a couple other elements of the story a little bit more. But what I'll say overall, I do think that it was so fun to see this cast back. They said that they had been obviously teasing this for literally 20 years, to the point where I gave up thinking it was ever going to happen, and then it just suddenly was here. And so I was delighted to see everyone back together. I felt like they slipped back into these roles like, like a form-fitting dress, just like it's like they know who these people are. And so the chemistry between them sustains throughout here still. And I do like that since they were going to do a sequel, they didn't just do carbon copy paste. Like they did make an effort to say, hey, like, this landscape has changed in the last 20 years. Let's have a substantive discourse about the ways that those things have changed. And I appreciated the inclusion of that, because it does give this one a little bit more weight, in terms of substance, while I would say it sacrifices for substance with some of the style and pizzazz that the first one had. But I think overall, this was, as legacy sequels go, especially ones that come out 20 years later, I really think that this one hit most of the marks for me personally.
Yeah, no, I think I'm closer to you, Laron. I was surprised. I was actually pretty cynical about this movie, if I'll be honest. I saw the trailer and I rolled my eyes back to my head. I was like, I liked the first one. I never in my life ever even considered asking the question, should we have a second one? Again, not the target demographic for the first film, but I was like, oh, it's a great film. We'll just leave it be. And so when we get the trailers, I was like, oh my God, really? I mean, I was like, I love these actors. This feels like a paycheck movie for all of them. And I'm not saying it wasn't, but also I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed the film. Maybe a way I could say this. I think it's at its strongest whenever it's leaning into the fashion industry, the comparisons of how the fashion industry is today versus how it was 20 years ago. I think it's at its strongest when it's calling out Miranda Priestley's bad behaviors. I think it's still maybe a little too sympathetic towards her, but you do get a little more under her skin and in her head. And the thing I love about it is that this is like a moment that anyone who's working in any form of media, I would say, yes, specifically like print or journalism, online media in particular, but even the film industry, this is a similar thing you're seeing happen. You mentioned the Amazonification. Like, we're in this industry that once felt like the biggest thing on the planet, that was just only the most powerful people could access these lanes of power, these levers of power, and have this sort of influence over the culture. What it used to feel impossibly big has now shrunk so much because of how technology has changed how everyone's interacting with magazine content. Instead of it being a magazine you get weekly or monthly or bi-monthly, it's literally like you can scroll and see the photos on your phone, click it, read the first 2 lines, and move on and forget you even thought about it. It's showing how really as a mirror in terms of how our media consumption habits have changed, and thus how those changes in our habits have impacted the business, which leads to the the fact that, like, big tech, the thing that owns these platforms, like in terms of the technology platforms, social media channels, websites, Amazon owning commerce. You're looking at how these things are coming in and swallowing up these older, more legacy institutions that have not been able to adapt meaningfully. And even Miranda Priestley, who is the most powerful of the powerful people running this, are not immune to having to change in order to survive. And that's what I think the movie is at its best. I also really enjoyed a lot of the new, obviously the old cast, they were all great, playing it well. Stanley Tucci in particular, treasure. But I have to say, I really enjoyed all the new cast members. Justin Theroux is playing a cartoon character, and it's silly and kind of dumb, but I kind of like it because I just think I love seeing him chew the scenery.
It's the Jeff Bezos of it all, because it's clearly the reference. It's they're clearly referencing Jeff Bezos here, and it definitely. Yes. I also think it's strategic that this movie came out right before the Met Gala.
Yes.
Thought that was very clever, and commentary on it while we get ready to see like the modern iteration of that enterprise altogether. And people have strong feelings one way or the other. Is this gross to see all these people, billionaires, spending all this money, but at the same time these people invest in the arts, and so which we want to sustain, and there's that ongoing tug of war. Like, everything's happening in the world, and here are these people looking glamorous and lavishing in wealth, and is that
Right.
tone deaf to the moment right now, or is that, there's a lot of commentary about that. Of course, I watched it. Beyonce was a co-chair, so I mean, I can't argue. I can't say that I wasn't there waiting on bated breath to see what she was going to be wearing and what the outfit change was going to be and who all of those things, because it's always been something I've enjoyed. But I also think I think two things can be true at the same time. You know what I mean? I didn't fault anybody who wanted to view it and watch it and enjoy it the way that we always have.
Right.
But at the same time, there is obviously this conversation around.
I mean, it's owned by Bezos they own the gala. So
Yeah.
like,
He bought the gala for his wife, essentially.
So if it feels icky, I also get that. You know what I mean? I also understand that. I'm watching it for different reasons. You know what I mean? Like, so, and that's the kind of the battle you have to choose with yourself, like, so.
Well, yeah, all I'm saying is this movie is really, it's really just joining the rage against the machine of late stage capitalism, where like everything must infinitely go up and to the right, or it's going to get acquired by something that is, and that's kind of where we're at, even in the publishing industry. And I think the movie does a lot of really smart things. There's I bet if I was a fashion industry insider, I probably would have picked up on a lot more, because you can just kind of tell. Like you mentioned the Bezos comparison, that's definitely who that character is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And there's also so anyway, strengths, all that stuff, commentary, returning cast, new cast, all that's fine. Weakness, celebrity cameos, lots of them, and not just like movie cameos or even fashion cameos. Like at one point, listen, I have some podcast. I like to listen to the Pivot podcast, so I'm a big fan of Kara Swisher. But I was like, what the hell is Kara Swisher doing in this movie? Like, it's just like there was like musicians who show up. I won't spoil all of them. There's just all these cameos. It feels very much like, all right, we just paid them to be in this movie, so they'll talk about it and market it for us. Not a bad idea, but I didn't feel like the movie really needed it to make its point, and it felt like it just added some unnecessary screen time. Felt a little crass. And then the other thing that Cam, you already mentioned, is all the callbacks to the old film. While on one hand, you got to do it, right? I kind of get it, especially for your studio film. You got to do it so people can have the Leo moment. But like those are the moments that I found to be by far the least interesting for all the characters. What I'm more interested in is how have things changed, how have these people evolved, and the constant calling back to like even the smallest moments. I'm like, okay, whatever.
I will say I did feel like there were new shades to each character this time, which was nice to see. It's particularly like the coldness that we always see in Miranda. There were moments here where she actually has some introspection where you don't get to see in the first one, much at all, or at least not in the presence of anyone else, maybe in private. So it's nice to see like that exchange she has with Stanley Tucci towards the end. We won't say what happens, but it's just kind of like there's a moment of acknowledgement, of things that she's doing.
Yeah, but man, with the Stanley Tucci thing, that's a little too late, man. I'm sorry.
You think it's too late? It's probably. I'm not saying he should accept it. It's just nice to see her try.
I like how Anne Hathaway's like, remember that bad thing she did to you at the end of the last film? Yeah. He's like, oh, she's done that to me like 20 times,
He's
and
like,
I'm
how
still
many
here.
times?
I'm like, bro,
yeah,
bro.
There is a moment that I for me is personally the funniest moment in the whole movie for me is that, as we talked about the coat thing, and they're like, yeah, she has to put up her own coat now. And we watch her struggle to put the coat on the door, and then she's winded and she can't take it. I was like, that's just so funny, and that's a clever way to call back that moment in a different context.
That's what I'm saying. Those are the moments that I think work really well because it's immediately contrasting the previous film. It's having a dialogue with the previous film versus the remember how I opened the first film with me brushing my teeth? Like the one line. It just felt like a little like not great. Cam, I'm curious, what did you think about sort of like the way the film is sort of like looking at the state of the fashion industry?
Well, I mean, it definitely, I think, hit a lot of main points that I've thought about too. Well, I feel like we're so overloaded with so much information that buying a magazine used to feel like an event. You wanted to collect it. I used to draw like all the images, so I have a lot of those burned into my memory. So the fact that now they're making content in a business that used to make art editorial, that used to bring in a bunch of artists to create like an iconic moment in history, art history, designing history, I found that they was very on the nose. It felt like the influencers, the celebrities, it felt like having to appease them all the time. trying to check all like the demographics or like the views on an article, you know, because they, you know, I don't want to get into, but they're very big about going viral. You know, it's not even about the actual art and designing that they're doing. It's about going viral. It's about having sponsored advertisements. That's another big thing as well. And it's not anything new that journalism or magazines need sponsors, but it's the fact that it is now integral for them to
Yeah.
even keep
To
making
sustain.
it, to sustain themselves. And it's the fact that most magazines nowadays are mostly advertisements. There's not much writing. There's not much
Yeah, there used to be whole editorial pieces, and now there's just it's like image and then huge ad on in the side columns, and this is the same online as well. It's just like we used to actually talk about stuff. There is in a you know, in a very, I don't know, like a more substantive way, and now it's sound bites. It's like the TikTokification of everything. Everything has to be quick and snappy and brief and keep
when it's
their
not
attention
analysis,
span.
it's not meaningful. It's not as thoughtful. You know, it's like, how can we boil this down to a headline people will read? And I thought that was another thing that was interesting. They were like, hey, it's great that you wrote this piece. That's a pretty good piece, but how many people read it? Oh, no one. Okay. So it's worthless.
Yeah. We don't care. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough. I don't know. I thought all of that stuff was really rich though. I also thought there was the moment where Miranda was like, she said stuff like making suicide jokes about herself, and her sister was like,
Nope,
"No, I didn't say they killed themselves. I said I would kill myself."
Oh goodness! Oh, what? Don't tell me what I can't say. You know that? Just like what is in now, and I mean, but there's something too, and I think again, like I said, in exchange of kind of the frothiness of the last one, you know, where we're just able to kind of take it all in as kind of just this candy coated confection kind of thing. I would even argue that this movie isn't even the same genre as the last one, in the sense that it's especially tonally, like it's definitely like the first one is so aspirational, as we've kind of said, you know, in a way.
Well, this is the opposite, dude.
And this is very cynical, but also very true, you know. So it's like it's like, can you in this movie tries to have it both ways, and there's a little bit of tension between that, because the reality of the situation is that the thing that we loved about the last one doesn't exist in this world. And so, you know, to make a movie still have that kind of, without trying to at least engage in the conversations about why that is, was necessary for this movie. So I do think, again, it gives it some more oomph and weight, but it kind of in exchange of the just easygoing pleasures of the first one, if that makes sense.
So the first film, let's say, maybe to be more specific, if the first film is sort of like exploring like the trade-offs of you know, working in a glamorous job for your personal life, and ultimately I feel like the film kind of comes down on if that's a trade-off you can make, it's a worthwhile trade-off. This movie is like 180ing. It's saying, don't make those trade-offs. The world's going to hell. Because it doesn't matter how good a job you do, it's going to be gone soon anyway. Like, that is kind of the crux of the movie.
Yeah. At least it doesn't lie to you. It doesn't lie to you, but at least...
No.
But it also...
And I won't spoil the ending of the film, but basically the solution that is presented in the movie, you're like, well... if this is the best hope for the future of the fashion industry and publishing, well,
write it
not
out.
Looking great. You know, I don't know. I guess so. Yeah, it's totally, Ryan, I think you nailed it. It's cynical, but it's true. And because the fashion magazine as it exists in 2006 just does not exist today, therefore, how do you even make a movie about that? Because it wouldn't feel true, right?
Yeah, I feel like you're just lying to us. This is not the real world. This doesn't exist anymore. And people, especially the generation Z, right after us, like that never existed for them. So it's kind of like, you know what I mean. So this is kind of how they would see it. They would definitely call bullshit right away. If I feel like if they tried to do that, you know, right all over again. But
absolutely.
I think another big issue I took with this film, the pacing was pretty rough, and I think a lot of it has to do with the extraneous subplots. I actually also thought, so we won't get too into it, but Emily Blunt has a major subplot, and there were parts of that I thought were very important, but there were parts of it that I felt like were completely unnecessary. So I say that to say the pacing in the movie, at first it feels like, at the first, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, it feels like it's just going to rehash the first film, and then you get to kind of the meat of it, and you're like, oh, I thought we were going here. We're zagging in a totally different direction. and it's a way more interesting direction. But then it kind of gets lost. It takes a really long time to find its footing again before I feel like it shifts into a gear towards like having some plot momentum. And I think a lot of that's because in that middle section you have, I don't know, 3 or 4 different subplots all kind of overlapping, but not having the right like clarity on exactly what the point of the scenes are. At least that was the one time I watched it was something that stuck out to me. Cam, I was curious, was there like any of the subplots in particular that like stuck out to you as like unnecessary or especially worthwhile?
I mean, we had already spoken about the love interest where it felt just thrown in because they needed that element to maybe market the film or to kind of keep that everybody appeased or whatever. But I really like, I don't know if we can talk about Lucy Liu's
Oh
part.
yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen her in a big movie in a while, so I was super excited to see her in this film, but it felt like they could have done more with her character, and I was really excited to see this whole idea of a holy, like, the way that they get her in the film
Hmm.
of this interview that happens. And I thought she was going to be in it more, but it just felt like they just needed something in there. So that just
Hmm.
felt like a missed opportunity to really use her a little bit more. And Justin Theroux, to me, felt like he was a character from Zoolander that just stumbled onto
Yeah,
the set
very
of
silly.
this film, because it felt like, I'm like, where's Derek Zoolander then? I feel like he belongs in this part of the film. And it was really funny. I really had a great time when he would come on, but it felt so jarring, especially with the way that he talked about the pace. It felt like it was just like, here's this, here's that, here's BJ Novak, here's this person, So yeah, it was just, I feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities. I didn't need the boyfriend. And yeah, those were just like a couple of those. And then it felt like I don't know if we can talk about where they end up going, like to another country.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
maybe we can spoiler tag it because we're not doing an in-depth spoiler section on this, but we'll spoiler tag it. So if you don't, so listeners, if you don't want to know what happens for the rest of the movie, tune out and I'll timestamp. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll timestamp it when we get to the recommendation section. But fast forward, probably I'd say 2 or 3 minutes. All right, Cam. So
Okay.
where are we going? Lucy Liu's character, very integral, but not a lot of screen time, but very integral.
Yeah,
Definitely not Jeff Bezos' ex-wife.
No, not at all. Absolutely not. His angel wife, I guess, supposedly. But I think going to Italy was very fascinating, but it was like, let's just go to a different location because they had Paris in the first movie. So they were just like, we need to find something to really try to kind of parallel the other movie so people can get a little more interesting in a different setting. So that was just my thought, that it felt like they had many interesting ideas, but they were just throwing everything at the screen to see what would fit and just to keep people entertained, essentially.
Yeah, the Emily Blunt relationship with the Justin Theroux bit, it wasn't unnecessary because it was kind of integral for the plot of the movie, and also there's that weird where it's clearly like paralleling real world parallels. So I'm like, on one hand, it's kind of necessary, but there's a lot of time. There's a lot of like the plot has to pivot around that specific point 2 or 3 different times before there's a clear direction, and it feels like it really slows the movie down. At least that's what I thought. Laron, what did you make of the whole relationship with Emily Blunt and Justin Theroux?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like I said, if we had cut that romantic relationship, let's keep doubling down on that. If we had cut that all together, I feel like that 15, 20 minutes, could have been devoted entirely to that subplot and maybe zhuzh that up a little bit more. Because I do think a lot of the plot points in this, for the most part, are interesting. They're just undercooked, or underserved, and so we orbit around them. And there are some conflicts that come in that either very easily get resolved, so we're not invested enough to care, or there's something that we get a breadcrumb of, like with the Lucy Liu character, that doesn't come back until the very end. It does come back in a big way, but wouldn't have been more interesting if we had kind of been doing some ebbs and flows with that particular character arc. And so, but yeah, I definitely think from a pacing standpoint, there was a lot more distractions in this than maybe was necessary to, in full. And just some judicious editing, I think, would have served it very well.
Yeah, cut the romantic subplot. The thing with the romance subplot in both films, I actually think in both films, there actually is a potentially interesting angle there, which is like sort of exploring how as a serious professional who wants to be successful in that industry, like, how does that work? And why does it lead to people who separate over jobs or get together because of jobs? Like, I actually think there's potential there, but neither film, this one is even worse than the last one, in my opinion, but neither film meaningfully explores it enough to justify the, like, 20 or so minutes it's there.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, we didn't need the boyfriend at this point. And it's like, that's
We're-
kind of a cool idea.
we're
It's a
rooting
cool idea. I've worked through the career. I would like to have, and I discover a partner. That's a potential story, but that's not the story the movie's really telling.
Absolutely.
We're invested in Anne Hathaway in both movies succeeding at whatever she's trying to do. We care less about the relationship that's collateral damage as a result of it. But there is something, like you said, to be said about that, and how someone in that field, what kind of sacrifices people in those relationships have to take on. I'm certainly in a dynamic like that, myself, like where it's like, it's up and down all the time. I'm here, I'm there, but when I'm busy, I'm really busy and I can't do anything else, so, and that definitely takes a toll, you know what I mean? And on the day-to-day exchanges and relationship, nuances. So there's something to that, that I don't necessarily think is meaningfully explored really particularly in this one, but I would say not even as strongly even in the first. But
yeah.
Again, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. That's the thing. It's not that it's a bad idea. It's that there's too many, like you said, there's too many ideas in the script. So like something should probably have gone. That's easily the first thing that could get nixed.
For sure.
I also did not, I don't know about you guys, I did not, since we're talking about 4 spoilers at this point, listeners, again, so if you don't stick around. No, I'm putting out there because it's worthwhile. But I really did not buy the Emily Blunt's, like, I just wanted to be friends Anne Hathaway the whole time. It just felt, it rung a little like,
I definitely
Hallmarky. I didn't earn it.
It wasn't earned. I'll say that. It's definitely what we want from them.
Yes, it was a fan fiction moment, I think.
Yeah, that was definitely something we wanted, even from the first one. It was like, we just want them to be cute together. Like all the bickering, but it's going to be sweet when they finally get over themselves and have a mutual respect for one another. So it's something that needed to happen. But again, because so much time was spent other places, this is relegated to a conversation at the end of everything where it's like, well, okay, but
here it is. Like,
you guys literally just resolved this problem. There's no way this is what you were thinking about.
And also, it's not like it was a small, like, oh, we had a little fight. It's like, oh, I almost cannibalized your entire industry and got all your friends fired. Like,
I backstabbed you, but low key, let's hang out and kiki and have a drink. Like, I don't know.
If we'd been friends, I wouldn't have thought about trying to buy the magazine and fire all of you.
So it's my fault.
It's just weird. Okay. Sorry. Last note on the ending, though. And I'm not this. I actually think it's a great story. I think I'm glad they did it, but it just, again, cynical ending.
Sure.
The solution to the magazine getting bought by the tech bros is that we just found a nice billionaire to buy the magazine. Like that's the solution. Yeah. And that is really bleak.
That's sad.
Yeah. And
also, the movie presents it as like, oh, this great thing happened to us. Oh, it's so good, and you're like, oh,
right.
Yeah, and they're like, let's just hope she plays nice and doesn't want to change a single thing. They're just like, she'll be good for now. And it's like, she could at any moment do whatever she wants with your magazine.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And again, that's also where we are right now. So I actually really appreciate that that's the ending they went with. But you're just like, ugh. The fact that I don't know if the movie, I'm not sure how earnest the movie was about the optimism. Was it like actually rah yeah, or was it like rah yeah, and let's leave it to the audience to interpret? Either way, it was a good choice. I'm glad that they made that story choice, even if it makes me feel kind of like sad on the inside.
Yeah. It wasn't a contrived like, oh, everything got better ending. It's definitely like, well, you know what it is. We're living through it. So
in today's world, this is in today's moment, this is the best case scenario
right now. Yes, we hope it changes, but who can say?
Who can say? Hopefully, Lucy Liu's a very nice person.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, let's get to letter grade verdicts. Laron, Chapman, what letter grade would you give The Devil Wears Prada 2?
Okay, well, for all the doom and gloom, I will say I was still highly entertained by this, and and I got enough of a warm hug from it, to say that I had a good time with it. And again, as legacy sequels go, So many of them are cash grabs and they're soulless and they're empty. I don't think this movie's empty. I think it's a little overstuffed, actually. But I think that overall, I mean, I was still very much here for the fashion aspect of it. I think that, they changed costume designers with this film, but I wouldn't say I hardly noticed. I'd say that I was still oohing and awing at everything that they were wearing, which was a fun aspect of the first film. I think the cast is really strong here. While I don't think this will be the memeable, iconic, long enduring, a cultural phenomenon that the first one was, I still think it was a pretty solid sequel that by the end of it, I was happy to have seen it. So I would land at, I'm going to say a B minus. I think that this was frothy, entertaining, fun, and not as iconic as the last one, but a serviceable sequel.
Serviceable sequel be nice. I think that's a compliment.
Absolutely.
Cam, how would you rate this film?
Honestly, I think I was kind of like taking in all that cynical side. So at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I really enjoyed it. But looking back and speaking to the two of you and like just thinking about the nostalgia and everything that I felt I enjoyed about the film, I'm kind of on the same boat where I feel like it's like a C plus or a B for me. It's kind of there. It's just the parts of the film that I like are on that B, but the C plus was, all the stuff, all the things we talked about it being overstuffed. But yeah, we have a lot of sequels, like legacy sequels on the horizon, and I feel like this is one of the few that I feel like are gonna that did a pretty good job. So I did enjoy it, but yeah, there's just a couple things that I'm still like, oof, like I wish they would have just done a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, it's in that C plus B minus range. I'm right there with you. I'll go. Yeah. Well, Laron, I was gonna give it a B minus, but I'm like, you clearly liked it more than me. So if you liked it more than me, I have to give it a C plus right now. I mean, a B minus because I really found myself having a good time. I know I gave it. There were some criticisms about I mentioned about the pacing and like the callbacks, but overall, I think the thing that was most impressive is again the cast was funny, the chemistry was there, the magic of those people working together with the new flavors from some of the new cast members really worked. I had a great time. I found myself leaning in. Even if the pacing hit some rough patches and it could have been a little tighter, I don't think it ruined the movie as much as it just kind of held the movie back from being it's a good movie, could have been a great movie. And I say that because the movie was surprisingly had a lot on its mind and a lot to say.
Yeah.
And for a sequel to a movie that came out 20 years ago, that it was more or less a workplace dramedy that I didn't really feel like had that much going on, very impressive, I have to say, frankly. And I'll say a B minus. I recommend this. If you liked the first one, you should absolutely watch this one. It's not perfect. There's a few things holding it back from being great. But I think if you're interested in fashion industry, if you're interested in the media industry at all, honestly, to young people who are like, should I chase a career in the media industry? I would say, honestly, go watch that movie. And if you watch it and you say, I think I'm ready to play ball, then yeah. But if you say that sounds crazy, nah, dog. That's on the media industry. For some of us, it's too late. We're in too deep. But yeah. Anyway, very impressed. I had low expectations. Call me overly impressed. So I'm going to give it a B minus. What else would we recommend to listeners who like The Devil Wears Prada 2? Could be a television show, movie, video game, novel. Cam, I'll throw it to you first. What would you recommend to listeners?
I'm trying to think of like fashion films and that kind of thing. I mean, I always liked Working Girl. I know it's kind of on the different side, but just thinking about a workplace drama kind of vibe.
Sigourney Weaver and Melanie Griffith. That I really watched that one just not too long ago, maybe within the last year and a half, 2 years. And I was very surprised by how timely and kind of, forward thinking that it was really ahead of its time in terms of what's happening in those kind of workspaces, and particularly with women in any kind of position of power in a workplace like that, especially office settings. So yeah, that's a good choice, I think.
Yeah, I think it just feels like it's exploring a lot of like the especially gendered workplaces environments. So I feel like it kind of talks about it more in depth, in my opinion. So I would definitely recommend that film. Yeah.
All right, Working Girls. That's a good one. I haven't thought about that movie in a while, so I think maybe I'm due for a rewatch on that one. Good call. Laron, Chapman, what would you recommend?
9 to 5 came to mind. Thinking of like that demographic of ladies that we love, but they're working for the man. In this case, the man would be, Meryl Streep's character, but and just the kind of tyrannical workspace and being under the reign of that. But in a more like kind of a good companion piece for the movie specifically, I would say there's a documentary called The September Issue.
Yes.
That follows Anna Wintour through the September issue of Vogue magazine, which of course is the inspiration for the entirety of the books and the movies related to The Devil Wears Prada, where we actually get to see in real life, what these movies are dramatizing. So it's nice to see the challenges that she's faced. She's not just this pretty face and nice clothes. Yes, those things are true. But there is a lot of hard work, thought, intention, creativity, ingenuity, all these things that go into that particular role. And which is why I've always loved that speech, the cerulean speech in Devil Wears Prada, because it's like you're laughing at the movie almost entire. You're on Anne Hathaway's side the whole time. And then randomly, Meryl says something that makes some sense, about what it is that they're doing and the influence that what they're doing. We're not just mean people in clothes. Like, yes, those things should change, but there is actually a lot of intentionality that goes into this industry that does have implications and does affect your life, whether you are aware of that or not. Right. So like she says, you just picked that sweater out of whatever, but months ago we picked this outfit and it trickled all the way down and you didn't think you had anything to do with it, but we picked that for you. That just says to you that these decisions have an impact on your life, and you're wearing that sweater today because we told you it looks good. You didn't know that. I think that's interesting, to just show the infiltration of that. So the September issue is a great example of that because it shows you truly how that industry works from the person that these movies are inspired by.
I have not seen that one. Great recommend, Laron. Yeah. Might have to check that out. Yeah. The more I hear about the fashion industry, the more I hate it. So, this is motivated fuel for my fire here. So speaking of things that hate the fashion industry, I'm going to go with an anti-recommendation, which is my recommendation, and that is the Neon Demon. If you want to see how the fashion industry dehumanizes the models, chews them up and spits them out, and then puts them back on the runway again, the Neon Demon. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a pairing unless you're really into some pretty graphic stuff. But if you like Nicholas Winding Refn,
thematically though, there's some overlap there.
Absolutely,
there's enough overlap. The dehumanization of the process, I think, is there. And again, the line "a million girls would kill for this job." Like that is kind of part of the thesis of that movie. So I think there's a there, but also it's not for the faint of heart. Very hard R and goes places. But the Neon Demon, highly recommend that film as well. Nice. All right, Cam, it's been so great talking movies with you again. It's great to have you on the show. We're going to bid you farewell. We're not going to take you to the Nether Realms to talk about Mortal Kombat. Where can people keep up with you and all the cool things you're doing for deadCenter Online?
Of course. Check out deadcenterfilm.org online. Everything's going to be on our Instagram as well. And we have an upcoming incredible event. I believe it's on May 18th?
17th.
17th. So sorry.
Sunday, May 17th. Yeah.
Sunday, May 17th. It's going to be out in Scissortail Park. If you're in Oklahoma, come check it out. It's a free event. It's going to feature the Oklahoma Philharmonic. And we're going to be showing a film with a score to play along with it, one of our award-winning short animated films. And just keep up with us online. And I'm going to be on Instagram too, promoting the festival that will be from June 10th through the 14th.
Yeah. And during that event, we're going to essentially be doing the rollout of the schedule for deadCenter. So if you want to be the first to know of it before it hits the press, then we'll be announcing it there. Obviously, the recipients know that they're in right now, but the public doesn't know who those recipients are yet. So this is where we kind of do kind of a free for all. Like, hey, this is what everything. This is the lineup. This is what you have to look forward to. Here are our recommends. and here are the dates they're playing, all that jazz. And so basically, and you can also, I think at that time they're going to allow some people to register, to get their passes and what have you. So.
That's pretty awesome. So listeners, if you're catching this episode is up on a Wednesday. That means you got 4 days this upcoming Sunday. Tail Park, if you're in Oklahoma City or maybe even Tulsa, you want to get a sneak peek at the schedule, you want to get advance notes on your badges, check it out.
May 17th, Sunday, and I believe at 8 o'clock is when.
8 o'clock.
Cam, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to see you, and hopefully you have a wonderful festival season. Eager to see what you guys have in store.
Good to see you.
Well, Laron, it's time for Mortal Kombat 2. So let's get to it.
You want to know what makes a hero? It's not destiny. It's not something you're born with. It's searching for greatness.
Johnny Cage, you have been chosen for Mortal Kombat.
Then realizing you've had it in you this entire time.
Whoa! I really don't feel comfortable hitting a girl.
Don't worry.
You won't.
Yo, send me back. I want to go back.
According to IMDb, Mortal Kombat 2 is described as the fan-favorite champions, now joined by Johnny Cage himself, are pitted against one another in the ultimate battle to defeat the dark rule of Shao Kahn that threatens the very existence of the Earthrealm and its defenders. So, a few fun facts about Mortal Kombat 2. This is the fourth Mortal Kombat movie. There was 2 different films from the 1980s, the Mortal Kombat and, of course, Annihilations, which has iconic tagline, Annihilate All Expectations, which spelled doom for that film. Then they had the 2021 reboot from Mortal Kombat, directed by Simon McQuaid, and this time he returns with writer Jeremy Slater, who wrote Moon Knight. The film is budgeted at $80 million and grossed... looks like $38 million at the box office, coming in third behind Devil Wears Prada 2 in its second weekend and Michael in its third weekend. We reviewed the first Mortal Kombat back in the COVID era of 2021, and I think the consensus at the time was, well, it got enough right with the kills and some of the characterization, even though it was lacking in the story department. We said, well, let's see what they do with the sequel. So here we are, flash forward 5 years, by the way. And overall, I have to say, it's a very interesting sequel. It goes a very different direction. Laron, Chapman, you were not with us on our 2021 review back in the depths of the COVID podcast era. What is your what is your overall relationship with the Mortal Kombat franchise?
Well, I mean, I did actually grow up playing this game, so this is one of the few that I am aware of. And definitely something that me and my brothers, I'm one of 13, and then respective my contemporary cousins, everything, that's something that we love to play with each other, so even going back to like Tekken and all those different things, like any fighting type of game, that was something that I definitely understood a little bit more than like playing Madden. Like I wasn't into sports, but in terms of the films, like definitely was a fan of the old, I think the 90s version of that Mortal Kombat. And so in general, I have a rough understanding of who these characters are. I don't know how involved the mythology is outside of that, if it is very involved, but I definitely have favorite characters amongst between the game and the films, so and with the most recent one to come out in 2021, was a fan of that one, as actually taking a video game and making it feel like when you're playing the video game versus, sometimes like with Resident Evil, as much as I like a lot of those movies as a guilty pleasures, I felt like the last Mortal Kombat definitely got that, the nihilistic aspect of the game down, the hard R, the blood splatter, the guts going everywhere, that sort of thing, that fatality aspect of it, which I felt like was kind of watered down in the earlier versions of it. So it was kind of fun to see it hit hard in that way whenever that came out. But so it was generally looking forward to this one. Not having high expectations in terms of storytelling, but at least as a piece of popcorn, entertainment with a little blood splatter.
Yeah, I mean, the first film, again, the characterizations were mostly there. I mean, you had a pretty good, mostly pretty good cast. Hiroki Sanada as Scorpion was inspired casting. Frankly, he's only recently gotten credit he deserves in America for the Shogun TV show, but he's been doing like really incredible character work for like over 30 years in the States. So it was. I mean, I thought he was great in that film. And then. The fatalities were cool. The story was weird. It took place before Mortal Kombat, which I know has been a very common criticism of that film. Like we're not actually going to go to the tournament. So what that led to though was a story that never really quite found its footing in terms of pacing. The first third of the movie I thought was had a really strong opening with sort of kind of setting the stakes between Sub-Zero and Scorpion and sort of Scorpion's legacy. And then you have this entire like middle act that's very like very focused on like world building, but it ended up feeling like a kind of a plotting mess. There was multiple points at the point where you're like, all right, so when is this going to go somewhere? And you get honestly, I think the climax at the end was pretty cool too. I got some really cool deaths and fights, but it was very okay. I like the games a lot. I haven't played. I mean, I haven't really played any of them meaningfully in a while. I usually, when a new one comes out. I don't buy them anymore usually, but because the thing is that Mortal Kombat's, I'll play them for like 2 or 3 hours and it'll be super fun. And then I'll move on. You usually do it to kind of like experiment, see what's new, do the fatalities, and then kind of like get about your day. So usually when there's like a way to play it for free or play a demo or something, I'll check that out. But, the original games way back in the 90s were a great time. Groundbreaking. The brutality, the deaths, the silliness. It's very silly, very cheesy. A big fan of all of that. That first movie just didn't quite scratch the itch, but it did enough that I was like, well, let's see what they do.
There was potential there. I would not argue it was a good movie. I would definitely just say that like, okay, I see that we finally have caught up with the technology where we can actually make this movie the way that we would like to, if we choose to, and we'll talk about whether the sequel accomplished that or not. But for sure, in particular with the fight choreography and a lot of the bloody carnage here, like the bone crunching, everything is just like, okay, this is what it feels like when I'm playing the game. And so that's cool. It's cool that they captured that aspect of it. But I agree, as a movie, as a story, it's paper thin. There's hardly a story there. More so a series of sequences strung together to get
a lot of characters walking around, and they're like characters like walking around, and it's weird because there is mythology. They explain the rules and the universe and all this stuff. But like in terms of actual like plot beats, you're like, where are we going? It's a bit of a slog, but your point though, I'm with you. The actual special effects, the visualization, and I do think Simon McQuaid as a director definitely understands the source material enough to hit the right tone. Just kind of lacked like the right script to really make the material pop to the best of its ability.
Right.
That brings us to Mortal Kombat 2. 5 years later, also it's kind of bizarre. It took 5 years to get a sequel to that film, given the way it sort of left off. It promised a sequel like right out the gate. Mm-hmm. So, Laron Chapman, what did you think of Mortal Kombat 2?
Okay, so I think my Letterboxd review for this movie is very, 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 very dumb, but I had a blast. I had a blast with it. But it's what I wanted from it, right? I mean, like I knew from the first trailer of this, I was like, okay, it looks like we're finally leaning into the camp. They're understanding that what we're coming to see with these movies are the fights. We're coming to see the action. We don't need some robust, like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like this isn't deep, meaningful cinema. This is definitely popcorn candy kind of just, it's B movie kind of quality in that sense. And I think that they really leaned really hard into that in ways that I found very, appealing, because we talk about 90s earnest charm a lot. And there's a certain degree of that. Like you want these actors to come in, ham it up, but also but also grounded enough that you believe that they live in this universe, no matter how silly it kind of is, and I actually think there are a couple of character arcs here that actually land. I think that they, in particular, Johnny Cage, I think that there's actually something here. It's not a huge heel, but but it's something. They tried. There's an effort made here to make him into a character in this universe, and so I had a blast with it. I thought they kind of very much upped the ante in terms of the death sequences and the again, the carnage, but which is what I wanted from this. It was everything that I came to see this movie for, so I left pretty satisfied.
Yeah. No, totally. I'm right there with you, honestly. Like, this is frankly everything I felt the first film should have been. It's again, we get, yes, I know the fan service critique. Oh, give us a tournament. We get the tournament. But here's the reason the tournament's important. It provides a sense of pacing and like story momentum that was definitely lacking in the last film. And frankly, is what gives even the games the story momentum they need, which is, okay, these people have to fight each other, and each fight there has to be some sort of like loose emotional arc for one or both of the characters that's going to the outcome will propel them to the next step of that journey. And this movie utilizes that very effectively. You're right. This movie's paper thin. It's dumb. This is a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
The movie, but I think the director and the new writer really understand what it is. You want graphic kills. You want cool fights. You want the tournament. You want there to be enough character arcs for you to feel invested, even if it's incredibly silly. Right, like sketches of characters. And Johnny Cage, he does have a bit of an arc in the movie, and that I latch onto that. I'm like, oh, I appreciate it. So when he has his big emotional moment at the end,
you're invested as much as you should be.
Exactly. But it's also not demanding that you take this material that seriously either.
No, and I think that's part of the charm of it, is that there's a certain, which maybe in the last one was lacking for sure, was that wink at the camera. This is silly. We all know this is silly. This movie knows it's silly, and I think that's why we appreciate some of the latter entries of like the Fast and the Furious movies, what have you. It's like there's a certain acknowledgement at some point that what we're doing is ridiculous. And as long as we acknowledge that, then we as the audience are willing to embrace or suspend enough, suspend enough belief to go along for the ride and just enjoy it for what it is, instead of saying that this is absurd or illogical. We know that. And that's and it knows that as well. And I think that wink, wink, nudge, nudge is here in spades. And one thing I also like was the game. I mean, and I don't know if I'm interpreting this right, but what I love is seeing, like, how they put the lives in the sky.
Oh yeah, that was very video gamey. Yeah,
and love the aspect of it that these characters exist somewhere. They have their own individual conflicts or what have you, but at some point they're summoned, and I like to believe that the people that are summoning them are the gamers who are playing the game. You chose this person, and so that's why they're dissipating, and now they must fight in this thing. And so, but it kind of plays on the idea that where do they go when you're done playing with them? Like, what were the conflicts they had? Who are they trying to get retribution with, or what have you? And there's enough of that there to kind of play both sides of what it's like to be a spectator of this while playing the game versus what it, how that translates into a cinematic format, and I like that aspect of it. So that was kind of fun as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. This is a video gamey ass movie. Like it understands. It's all the game mechanics are there. The sense of humor is there. Kano, who was in the last movie, he was the comedic relief in that first film, and he's back again. The thing about the first film was he was basically the only comedic relief. So by the time you got to in the movie, his shtick got kind of old. So having him balanced out with the Johnny Cage character, and even just some of the other like small side characters kind of like taking jabs at each other, it just made for an all around like more complete experience. I don't really have a lot to say about this movie, if I'm being honest. There's not really a lot to the mythos of Mortal Kombat. The callbacks to the previous film are welcome. The new additions here in terms of like we go to like the afterlife underworld or whatever it's called, like the hell type thing. All that stuff is really neat. The kills are even better than they were in the last film. I do know at one point, I won't spoil how the film ends, but I remember thinking, oh, this last one, they've got to make this like a really epic fatality, or this whole thing's going to feel like it's really just not going to land with the oomph. And I got to say, they deliver an incredibly graphic fatality. And I was like, okay, they got it. It's on par with some of the most gruesome ones in the games, which is saying something, because those games get pretty crazy. So,
and I know playing them like with mom in the room or something like that, she's always disturbed by the like just the sheer like realism of you know, like the anatomically correct, like, you know what I mean, like, oh gosh, like the gut spilling and the spew, like whatever it is. She's like, are you guys okay? Because this seems a little violent, you know, like you know, to the point. No, we're good, mom. This is fun. This is just like, you know, it's not just wrestling. It's like you're annihilating people in sadistic and brutal, almost Saw level ways. You know what I mean? So it's definitely in that realm. But and that's I would have thought that would have been really hard to translate onto screen, and they do a really good job of making it feel like whatever that the replay that it does when you finally knock someone out of the you know, and you get to see that final kill and then they do the thing, whatever, like that aspect of the game is implemented into the film in a very effective way.
Yeah, and a couple of other ways. There's the fatalities, and a couple of like just small things. Where like, oh yeah, they got the end of the like there's one of the fights early in the movie. One of the characters he loses the fight, or they lose the fight, and they do the little like wobble thing. Which if you play Mortal Kombat, that's what you do when you're supposed to give someone a fatality. And if you don't do it, they just fall over. And which is exactly what the movie did. There was that. There was also the environments they actually had the fights in played a really interesting role. There was one in particular with spikes where. I thought it was some nice suspense. You're like, I don't know how this fight's gonna go. Either character could fight it.
With Sonya and the I can't remember the queen that
the queen, the Zhao Kahn's lover.
Yes, but because that is an aspect of the game. There'll be these things that could also impale you or take away some of your life essence, whatever, while you're also trying to actively pursue somebody else. And so them implementing that aspect into that moment adds a lot of suspense. Also love seeing them using things that I remember as one of the abilities for the characters. And if you're aware of what those things can do, like I'm someone they say is cheating because I use the same one that I know is going to knock them out quicker and don't have to do too much of the actual rest, and just keep hitting that same button, and then they're never going to win. And they play into that aspect of it too. I think the thing that she does, the scream spiraling thing, whatever that happens in that moment, that I thought was like, that's cool, because that's something I would see in the game. So that was
fun. The like screaming thing that felt like the wind pushing people back. Totally. It just gets those details right. And again, like honestly, you probably already know if you want to see Mortal Kombat 2. Like
especially 2,
especially the second one. It is what you want. I would say it is the film that you probably want. Is it the best version of Mortal Kombat that could exist? Well, probably not. I mean, I think there's probably bolder approaches, more creative approaches that could be better. But I mean, I guess the thing I keep coming back to, because I've seen some of the reviews from some people who don't like it as much as I do, and I think that's totally fair, because there's not really like there's not a there, and if you're looking for a there of any kind, it's not there. So it's mostly just very surface level enjoyment, and for me, it's like got everything I'd want. But there's probably a better version that could exist for sure. But as far as what I'm looking for in a Mortal Kombat movie, I think this Mortal Kombat 2 delivers it in spades. Do I really want more of them? I don't know. I mean, this one's making enough money. We'll probably get one. I'll probably show up. But honestly, it's been like, I think I saw this film about 5 days ago, and I've already forgotten most of it. So it kind of served its purpose. This is very, very basic. Like lizard brain is entertainment for a kid who grew up playing the games, who still has an affection for the series, but it's what it is. I don't know.
This is a kids, what is it? Kids icy, a jumbo size kids icy, but like the what do you call it? The green acid flavor from Ninja Turtles or something like that.
Yeah, the green ooze or whatever.
That version of it. Is this good? Probably not. Am I going to feel bad after eating it? Probably, but it was fun while it lasted. You know what I mean? Like, so, I don't think anyone should go into any of these movies with high expectations. But I think if you bought a ticket to Mortal Kombat 2 in the year of our Lord 2026, this is about the best thing you could expect from it, and I think it delivers on that front. So
yeah, I well said. I will say one last thing. I know I mentioned Carl Urban as a casting choice. I do think I will say one thing that was definitely missing from that first film was like a really quality start. Now Hiroki Sanada, incredible, again, legendary Japanese actor who's been doing great work. He's not really in the first. He's actually much more of a supporting character, and it's not his movie. He's great in the first one, but like outside of him, like there's just a huge vacuum. You've got Kano, who's a great comedic relief, but the Cole character just really didn't have any charisma. The movie was missing like some movie star energy to kind of like really
you need
get you invested.
You needed one or two more stars, I think, like that have more of a presence to pop in this. But yes,
the second one's better. But Carl Urban, in my mind, really fills that void pretty well.
Sure.
He really, yes. Would it be even better with even more movie stars? Yes. But I also am like just the simple addition of Carl Urban, who understands the assignment and delivers in spades. Like, you know, I think that really levels up the material. Because if it was just another like very okay actor who didn't have that sort of charisma, then the movie probably would have fallen a lot more flat.
And the dry delivery was done well. You know what I mean? Like, so which was needed for this, you know, that deadpan kind of aspect to it. But yeah, I mean, it was moment to moment, I was smiling at how dumb it was, but also weirdly having an entertaining time with it. And I think that's really all I expected from it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Not much more to say. I guess maybe last question, Laron, before we get to recommendations and verdict here. Like, I mean, we've been getting a lot of video game adaptations lately, and here's the thing. I like them mostly. Here's a few, I'll name them off. Super Mario Brothers movie and then Super Mario Galaxy movie. Neither of those very good, by the way. Neither of them very good. I know, like I said in my little micro review, I'm like, love it as a fan, bad movie. Like barely a movie. Okay. Got Minecraft. You know, I appreciate what it's doing more than I enjoy it. Clearly there's an audience and an appetite for that. And Jack Black is great, but not what I would call a good movie. You got the Sonic the Hedgehog films, which frankly are probably the most consistent. There are 3 of those, a 4th one on the way. And I'm not saying those are good, but they're consistent and they're solid. They understand the assignment.
Yeah.
The Uncharted movie, not very good. Until Dawn, we talked about this time last year, not good. So how would you compare Mortal Kombat 2 to sort of these other wave of video game adaptations we've gotten?
I enjoy them more than most of that crop, I'll say. But you know, but I will say it certainly suffers from a lot of the same things that the other ones do. I would say Sonic the Hedgehog is probably the best of that group, where there's actually a story and characters and, you know, 3 acts to the movie, you know, like, but I think that just as a matter of taste, you know, like Mortal Kombat is a little bit more my speed. And so I respond a little bit more to this one. I think this one certainly has more story than the last one, or at least, you know, there's a little bit more of a, how do you say, sharing the space between these different characters than I think the last one did. And like I said, there is at least an arc for Johnny Cage's character as well. As
Kitana also gets one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we open with that storyline, and that kind of follows through in a way. And I'm invested enough in that, you know, maybe not emotionally invested, but I'm invested enough to see her succeed or not with you know, the threat there. And yeah, like I said, it's like visually, it has a certain like high grade, low grade integrated with each other. Like there's a lot of things that look rubbery, but also there's a lot of things that it feeds into the gamification of it all, because the universe looks like what the game you play. And I think that was really cool. So there is also a tactileness to particularly the weaponry, the sharp edges, you know, anytime we see bones crunching or blood spurting, you know.
Yeah, environments too. The like there's the one I don't even know the name of the stage, but it's like ripped straight out of the video game. The one where they're like in this like on our ethereal plane and like there's everything's floating in space. You're like, oh, this feels exactly like the game.
Like what it's like in the game, for sure. Yeah. So this is one you go in with you know, modest expectations, and it'll probably meet those, maybe surpass them by a little bit, you know, just because you're not expecting the world of it. But it means to have a good time. It's definitely aims to have a good time. and I felt like I had a good enough time with it, based on what I expected from it.
Yeah, well said. Laron, what letter grade would you give Mortal Kombat 2?
I'd also give this a B minus. I think that it's a solid enough time. Does it have a whole lot of rewatchability? Probably not. If it's on and during a party or something like that, you might tune in every now and then to see a kill. But yeah, I think it serves its purpose. You watch it, you have that hour and 47-minute time with it, and then you move on with your life. And sometimes that's all you need. You just need a quick fix. You need just something to put on. I think this is not necessarily something you have to rush out and see in theaters. It's definitely something that would play just as well at home. Yeah, I mean, I'm not clamoring for more of these by any means. But I do think that, with what they've provided here, it's definitely a level up from the previous film. And I'd say a pretty substantial way. I mean, from something being like desperately mediocre to halfway decent. I think that's the gap between these two here. So yeah.
This film was originally supposed to come out in October, and they had so much confidence in the script and the performance of that first trailer that they bumped it up to summer movie season to May, which a lot of people would say is pretty risky but that also showed confidence that they thought this can compete in the summer. And I think that was the right call. This feels like a summer popcorn flick. It feels like early summer, light fun, get the adrenaline rushing, head out to the theater. I also saw this in a pretty packed theater, and that was a thing I did not get to do with the first Mortal Kombat due to COVID. I was not going to theaters at that time. So being able to root and cheer with all the other Mortal Kombat heads was a great time. So I'm going to give it a B minus. I had a fun time watching it. Like you said, it's certainly multiple steps up from the first film. It's a video gamey ass movie, and if you're into that, then you're probably gonna have a great time. If you're looking for anything substantive, if you want more from your characters, if you want groundbreaking action, if you want innovation, it's not doing that. This movie is made for a very specific audience with a specific purpose, and I think. I think if you're in that group of folks who can appreciate that, then you're going to have a great time. For everyone else, you're probably going to shrug your shoulders and say, but here's the thing. It's also going to be on streaming soon. Would recommend. I think it's worth your time if you're a fan of the Mortal Kombat video games, but otherwise, probably a pass. So B minus from me. We're on the same page. Laron, what other things would you recommend alongside Mortal Kombat?
A video game adaptation that I defend a lot is the original Silent Hill. I don't think it's a great movie, but I think it's a movie that captures the atmosphere of that game impeccably well. The surrealist aspect of it, the very very haunting, eerie atmosphere that it generates. And I do think that there's a semblance of a story in that. That is really, really intriguing to me. And every time I watch it, I appreciate so much of the craftsmanship of the film itself, even if I think it doesn't quite fully come together as a story. It at least comes together as an experience. And I think that very similar to the Mortal Kombat universe that we've been discussing, it captures that aspect of the game very, very well. And so I think it would pair well with this if you're a fan of the Silent Hill game.
Laron, fun fact: did you know that a sequel to that Silent Hill movie came out?
I didn't. I purposely didn't mention it because it's terrible.
Well, no. There was one that came out a while ago, and then there's one that just came out.
No.
Oh yeah, dude! It came out, and literally the marketing was terrible. No one saw it. It's same director too.
Okay.
So I haven't seen it.
I do vaguely remember that, but it came and went so fast, and there was very little conversation about it. So I feel like I didn't get to think about it long enough before it was gone to even try to see what it was about. But I did see the immediate sequel to the one I just referenced, and
Harrington.
It was pretty bad. So
it's awful. Don't watch it. No, I'm right there with you. I would never qualify Silent Hill as a great movie, but man, the atmosphere of the games, it captures super duper well. And that's one every couple of years, every 4 or 5 years, I throw it on. I'm like, it's not perfect, but I really appreciate what it gets right. So that's a great pick. I, for one, just recently rewatched Resident Evil because, there's a new Resident Evil, there's a new Resident Evil game, Requiem, that just came out recently, but also there's a new Resident Evil coming out later this year from Zach Kreger. And I thought, hey, let me throw it on and we'll see what's up. A couple of thoughts that I took away is, one, overall, great B movie. I think it is a lot like Mortal Kombat 2 in that it knows what you want. You want creepy ass mansion. You want zombies. You want weird, infected, mutated creatures. And it gets that. It's got one-liners. It's got enough action to be engaging. It's spooky enough. It understands the assignment. Now, would I say that Resident Evil 1 is a great movie? I would not. But I think it's really good at doing what it's attempting to do. And if you're a fan of the zombie genre, specifically if you're a fan of any of the games, the first Resident Evil, the first one, Mila Jovovich, none of the follow-ups, that one I would recommend as a worthy watch if you're looking at video game adaptations that just nail it. In terms of the feeling of the game, not necessarily the story beats of the mythology. There are some good ones out there, it turns out. Laron, it's been a great time. Of the two movies we've talked about today, Mortal Kombat 2 and Devil Wears Prada 2, which one is the real victor and which one suffers that fatality?
Well, I think even though I weirdly gave these both the same the same letter grade, I definitely probably would rewatch the Devil Wears Prada 2. I would probably not rewatch the Mortal Kombat film. That said, I would say that both of these movies, they know what they are, and they're definitely appealing to the demographics that would come out to see them. So I think there's something to be enjoyed with either one of these films, but my personal preference would be Devil Wears Prada 2.
Yeah, I think Devil Wears Prada 2 is the better movie. Listen, yes, I also gave them both B minuses, but here's the thing. They're doing very different things for very different audiences, you say. Yes. And I'm trying to grade it on what is the thing, why does this movie exist? What purpose does it serve? And how well does it effectively achieve those goals?
Yeah.
And I would say they're actually about on par. Obviously, Devil Wears Prada 2 is a lot more ambitious. It's got a lot more on its mind. It's got a taller task, and so for that, I think it's the more worthwhile film to watch.
Right.
However, I think where it struggles is sometimes it falls short of its ambitions, whereas Mortal Kombat, I think, kind of nails the ambitions pretty well. The ambitions just happen to be incredibly
a lot smaller.
Yeah, a lot smaller. A lot smaller bar to clear to get that B- grade.
Yeah.
Great time. Both films are playing in theaters right now. Laron Chapman, where can people follow you and all of your work before we catch up on our next episode?
Obviously they can follow us here at thecinematropolis.com for more episodes. They can also follow me on Letterboxd at black_cinna_man. And later on throughout the year, you can follow my review column, Real Insights with Laron Chapman, also on thecinematropolis.com.
Excellent. Laron, lots of good stuff. You're right in the thick of Laron movie season, deadCenter on the horizon. You're working on your own film, and you're still making time to talk about the podcast. Thanks for joining, folks. So check out his social media channels for all the good stuff. You can find me, of course, on all the social media channels at C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk. But of course, cinematropolis.com is the place to get all of our newest, latest reviews. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We're going to be back. I can't believe I'm saying this. Our next full in-depth episode, we are going to talk about a Star Wars movie. I'm nervous, Laron. I'm very nervous. I haven't talked about a Star Wars movie since the last time we talked about a Star Wars movie on this podcast. This podcast was launched, and it was called The Last Jedi. And
that was contentious. I remember. Yeah,
I'm you
I
love the movie unabashedly.
Same.
The discourse around that movie was so bad. I'm talking about not the movie. The conversation around the movie was so dire and toxic and depressing.
Yes.
That by the time the next Star Wars movie came out, I was like, we're never talking about Star Wars on this podcast again. So here we are. Mandalorian and Grogu is our next review episode. We've got some great guests lined up. Really eager to talk about it. We're going to talk about all things Star Wars and ask the question, is Mando and Grogu the next step of the Star Wars franchise? Well, let's find out. You have to tune in next time.